and welcome to episode 9 of Quarantine Conversations. I'm Samantha Lane, and today we're going to dive into all things environmental wellness and Feng Shui. Robyn Stevens is a Feng Shui consultant, and she's going to walk us through the simple yet profound ways we can set up our environments not only to reflect and support our best selves, but also to attract more of the health and abundance that you might be looking for. I hope you enjoy. Well, hi, Robyn. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. You know, when you get me talking about Feng Shui, sometimes it's hard to stop. So this will be fun.
You have a timer for us, but yeah, I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so excited for our audience to hear from you today. We met a few years ago in different networking circles in Kansas City, and I know I interviewed you last year, I think it was, for a blog post, which people can check out. I'll link to that. But tell us a little bit about just what Feng Shui is. I think it can be a confusing concept, perhaps, if people aren't familiar with the term, and how you found this journey to it.
Sure. So Feng Shui, and I'm not going to get into the big, it's a broad and deep topic, and it's wonderful and it's life-changing. But in its essence, it's just basically creating a space, whether specifically where you live, but also where you work, that supports you in the best possible way. And I often will say Feng Shui is like a living, breathing 3D vision board. And when you think about a vision board, there's something that you want to accomplish, whether it's buying a car or getting a new job, but you put this laser focus on it. You find pictures and words and colors and all these things to support it. And then you put it in your field of vision somewhere so you see it on a regular basis so you can manifest it. We'll apply that exact same concept to your home and everything in your home. Everything in our space has a direct impact on every aspect of our lives, how our relationships, our finances, our ability to meet our goals, our moods, everything. And now it's even more important because we're spending so much time in our homes. And if your home's not supporting you, it's just making this journey that much harder.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, and just putting this conversation in the context of, quarantine conversations. Maybe some people are starting to head back to their office, but the vast majority of us we either already work from home and, are even more so there, or people, were disrupted and working from home and maybe didn't have the time to think about, is this really supporting me well?
Right. And it's been fun because at the beginning of the quarantine, so many people were moving their offices into their homes and then going, oh crap. So I was doing a lot of virtual home offices because, it's just so critical that you set yourself up in a way that allows you just to be present in your job and be focused and productive. And oh God, girl, it all counts, from the colors on your walls to the cleanliness of your home to the symbolism that you surround yourself with. So it all makes a difference.
Yeah. I'd love to dive into some of those pieces in a little bit, but I also want to bring into context why, I personally love this topic because I know I've got a lot of work to do in my environmental wellness. I'm looking at apartments for myself later today. I've been kind of displaced, living with my parents, and so this looks nice behind me, but if you could see the other side right now, it's just kind of scattered. But I also, just thinking about the 8 dimensions of wellness, which, for me as a coach, I really kind of use as my foundation. I feel like people forget about environmental wellness as far as, like you said, bringing that intense focus to maybe these other areas, but really taking that scan, regularly around, is my environment for me? Is it serving me? Is it really building up my vision for my life? Just looking at, where I'm living right now, I feel like the default kind of just goes to maybe the trends of the time. Well, we'll put the TV here because that's what looks good, or we'll, I don't know, get that countertop, or just these different kind of trendy things. But to really ask yourself that question, like, is this part of my vision for what I want for my life? So I don't know if things are coming to mind as far as how you get people to start thinking about that. Like, okay, that might look good, but is that serving like your life vision?
Yeah. Well, and I want to take it back for just a second, because I think about the work that you do, which is so important. And all, you know, you're working with your clients and they're doing the hard work. The thing to remember is if their homes are not set up to support them and kind of cradle them, then they're much more apt to fall back into their old behaviors. So there might be a little bit of forward movement, but if the home's not supportive, then it's going to be hard to sustain that. So
that it truly can be a stronghold that people maybe aren't realizing. I'm going to say power, like the power that our environment have on us showing up as our best. Would that be a way to say it?
I think that's exactly right. And so much, so Feng Shui, the definition of it is the art and science of balancing and harmonizing your space. But one of the ways I kind of break it down and make it a little bit more digestible is so much of it's about common sense. And so much of it is that whole concept of like attracts like. And I think it's common sense that if you're surrounded by clutter, your mind is cluttered and it's difficult to be focused and be productive. If you're surrounded by things that are broken, you're probably broke, either mentally, emotionally, physically, definitely financially. Yeah. And if you're surrounded by things from your past, they're no longer wanted, relevant, or needed, think old relationships, you're probably stuck in the past and it's difficult to move forward. And it's that whole, you know, like attracts like, and I just really encourage people, look around, what are you attracting to yourself? And so,
yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking about what a cool and intimate role you play in people's lives. Because even just what you said might have been like, whew, for some people to be like, yeah, what are those things that remind me of a painful past that I'm holding on to? What are those things that are, you know, broken? But it takes energy to look at them. And so, yeah, can you share with us a little bit about your role and how you assist people with those perhaps really sensitive areas of their lives that now are coming to the surface?
So I like to think of myself, sometimes I call myself a Feng Shui detective or a permission giver. I was with one client who was just stuck, and she was just stuck. She had lost her job. She had lost her friend group. They just seemed to disappear. She had been bitten by a dog, and I mean, just all sorts of things. But I remember when we were going through her space, I just kind of zoned in on this clock. And I said, so tell me about this clock. Do you love it? Because it didn't look at all like her. It's kind of like what doesn't belong. And she's like, well, my sister gave that to me when I graduated college, like 20 plus years ago. I said, oh, so do you love the clock? No, not really. So you and your sister must be really close. Well, they weren't. They were estranged. And so you think about the energy that clock carries. And we talked a lot about it. And I felt like at that point, it was giving her permission to let go of those things she was keeping out of guilt. Because when we keep things out of guilt, that's living somebody else's life. That's not living our life. And the subconscious drives the train. And every time she's walking by that clock, it's just like this energy drain, just bringing her down. Or I had one client who had me come over because she was dating, I think you've probably heard this one before, bad boy after bad boy. And it was, you know, infidelity, lack of a job, struggling with sobriety. And when I went into her bedroom, there's a life-size picture of Johnny Cash on her bedroom wall. And so it was like she was manifesting the young Johnny Cash with every relationship that came in. And so that's some of the things that I do, is I just put awareness on different things in people's homes and how they are reflective.
So these links where the subconscious is making those links, but bringing that forward so that the person can make those links and make a change where they want to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also listen to people's language. I had one client who, when she called me, she specifically said, and I hope this is okay, that she goes, my life is going down the shitter. And I remember, okay.
Not okay for her, but okay for our audience.
Good, thank you. So I remember writing that down, being that's like one of the things that was just like pinging around. And when I walked up to her front door, and as I was knocking on the door and I looked down, her welcome mat was a replica suede cover. So it's just like, and that the front door is where energy comes into the home, and that's where opportunities and experiences and new people and the quality of those. And at the front door there's the sewer. So I mean, sometimes it's as easy as that, as just getting rid of those symbolic things that your subconscious is latched into.
So then I imagine people, follow, I don't know what the life cycle with a client is all the time. Maybe it's short, maybe it's longer projects, but then they come back to you, and like, what do you start seeing when people make these changes?
I have seen some of the most unbelievable, cool, like the woman with the clock, she's by far my favorite. She got an unexpected check in the mail for $20,000. And so that's huge, but I've seen unexpected job offers. I've seen promotions. I've seen surprise checks in the mail. I've seen new relationships. For me, my experience was at the beginning, not that dramatic, but like 6 months after I discovered Feng Shui and was doing the work within my home, I remember just taking inventory one day and looking back going, oh my gosh, look at where my life was and look at where it is now. And I feel like I was just like this flower that had just blossomed, because when we set up our homes to support us in the best possible way, what happens is opportunities start coming our way. And I think it's just been our whole responsibility is just to say yes. And the more we say yes, the more they come, and the more they come. It's a wonderful cycle.
Well, it's kind of this alignment with, so the episode previous to this, I was speaking with Dr. David Gullidge, who's a chiropractor, but he's very much practiced his kind of mindfulness and meditation, and that the idea that the universe is for you, and we can sort of align our energy with that. And I feel like this is being echoed in what you're sharing here. If we've got these things weighing us down, we're not going to see it. We're not going to see it and say yes, or it might not be the right timing for it. And I'm really struck by the spectrum of what your work can help and assist is, like we said earlier, the simple things of cleaning up clutter and getting rid of the broken things. Like that in and of itself, can be a weight. But then that detective style of picking out the items that don't work for you and just really, like need to go. And then also, I've imagined bringing in the items that do. So like the woman you mentioned with the Johnny Cash photo, like part of that exploration is figuring out, what do I want to put there? What do I want to manifest and have in my vision?
Well, and that's a really good example, because especially in your bedroom, you want to have symbolism of love and providing that you want these things, but love and partnership and sanctuary, and so I think it's a really great, like in my bedroom, I found the most beautiful picture of what I look like a couple of lovebirds. One's a little bit bigger than the other, so they definitely have a male and feminine vibe to them, which works for my life. And they're looking at each other, and it's just, they're connected. And so that's a really great, for me, that's not for everybody, but for me, that's a great symbolism of love and connectedness. And that's in my bedroom, and I see that every day before I go to sleep and when I wake up. Yeah. But I do want to say, additionally, symbolism is huge, and how the condition of your home and how you live is huge. Those are the things that you can address yourself. But what's equally as important is the shape of your home, the location of your toilets and your staircases and your exterior doors. All of those have an effect or an emphasis on how life works for us. Now, those are the things that are a little bit more complicated, and you really want to pull in somebody like me to help you out with that. But none of us are ever going to say, you need to move your stairs. You gotta move that toilet. But we have what we call adjustments or cures to shift that energy to make it more from like a negative to a positive.
Okay. So do people sometimes bring you in when they're thinking of buying a new home or renting a new space, or before a renovation or something like that?
All the time. Yeah. And what's really fun is a lot of my clients, they'll have me come into the house that they're currently living in, and they may not have any desire, or they're not even thinking about moving, but often it's not uncommon for them to do the work within their house, and all these really cool opportunities start coming in, and then the next house all of a sudden appears and shows itself. And at that point, I get to go into the new house before they've even moved in, and we talk about placement of, beds and sofas and all of this stuff to support.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit, if you would, around there seems like a vast difference between an organizer or like the kind of, even the Marie Kondo, you know, the art of tidying up and you know, things that bring you joy. And I'm not practiced in her, so you probably know more, but, and then to what you're saying too, because there might be like a little bit of overlap as far as, you know, reduce clutter and get rid of broken things, but like you're really bringing something else. So I don't know if there's just any way that you kind of distinguish, or when people ask you, oh, how are you different from an organizer?
Well, this is what I will say is you really can't feng shui when clutter's in the way, because a lot of times all you're doing is contributing to more clutter. So often people will come in and we'll go through and we'll talk about different ways that they can make adjustments, but often at that point, just the conversation is enough to get them really into purging and organizing, because that's such a huge part of it. And also there's times when I'll talk to people and I'll refer them to start with an organizer, because they're so loaded down with stuff, it's like they're paralyzed.
Sure. Like we can't get to the steps and the work that we want to do until that happens. And some people are like, great, I'll have the closet cleaned out this weekend. And others might really need someone to hold their hand through that process too.
Right. And that's, you know, and that's okay. I mean, there's certain things that I struggle with, that like exercise, I'm much better when I have a trainer. You know, we all have those things that we need a little help with. And I wouldn't look at having an organizer or a feng shui person come in as a luxury, but really more as a necessity, you know, to get you to a point where you're living your best possible life.
It gets me super excited about, you know, touring these apartments this afternoon and what could be possible for me in my space, because it is, as you're speaking, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense to start with your environment, to start with your space. But I feel like that's not what we're told when things aren't going our way. When things aren't going our way, or we feel like we're down, or like that woman, like in the shitter, we go inward. We feel like it's our fault. We, you know, it's like, what's within our control here? And it's like our space is within our control here. What can, you know, just to really support, you know, all those different things.
And, you know, I always tell people, you know, it's okay to start small. You know, I know sometimes when I'm feeling like, if I'm working on a project, a presentation, or a blog post, and I'm feeling really stuck, often I will take a beat back. I look at my desk, and my desk is a hot mess. Because frankly, before feng shui, I lived in Clutterville. I was the weak link in my relationship. I stacked. Oh my God. I mean, honestly, if I had not discovered feng shui, I don't know that my husband and I would still be together, because he's like, there's a place for everything and everything in its place. So
I really had to learn that. So that gives hope to other people that didn't have that innately too.
And it's not perfect. You know, I tell people, it's like, I don't live in Clutterville anymore, but I sure visit. And so sometimes if you just take a step back and go, oh my gosh, look at my desk, you take 15 minutes and you organize it, clear it off, maybe even give it a good cleaning, that's going to shift your energy so that you can then get the creative juices moving. Yeah. But one of the quarantine things, one day I was feeling really kind of energetically depleted, and I was having a hard time getting anything done. So I went and I cleaned out my spices. And I have to tell you, it's the most, it was only about a 30-minute little project from beginning to end. I got rid of everything that was, you know, expired. I reorganized, I ordered new stuff, and it just felt, it was a complete project from A to Z. Yeah. And it just gave me so much. Yes. So it's okay to do those small little things to get your energy moving. And what happens is the more small things you do, the more you kind of, you go into and find the energy for the bigger projects that feel a little bit more daunting. Yeah.
I've noticed that. I've been helping my mom with a couple of things. Right around Mother's Day, we finally put these, you know, 8 by 11, you know, big, or 8 by 10 big photos up on the wall, and we hung some twinkle lights in the sunroom. And it was like 2 things that when you cross it off, like it's crossed off. You know, the spices, maybe in another however many months, you might have to reorganize that, you know, just from the daily use. Like these were things that like they really were, you know, weighing, and they really enhanced the look and the feel of our daily lives, and to really just cross them off and carve out the time to do them.
Definitely. So I don't know how much time we have left, but I would love to give you just a couple of things to look out for when you're looking for your apartments.
Oh, yeah.
So the biggest, in Feng Shui, there's 3 really important pieces of furniture. There's your desk, your stove, and your bed. And each one of those have very specific roles in our life and how they're set up and how they're positioned. So let's just talk about the bed for our example, or for this conversation. Your bed needs to be in what we call the command position. And so what that means is when you're in a commanding position, that's all about your energy. And when your subconscious feels safe and secure, then you can sleep, you can focus, you show up as your best possible self. So when you're looking at these places, make sure there's a spot for your bed that is against a solid wall. Mm-hmm. And you can see the door, but ideally your bed's not in front of the door, because that's a lot of energy coming in on you. Okay. And then also if you can avoid having doors cross the bed, mm-hmm. try to avoid that. Now, if you can shut the doors, that works, and there's adjustments that we can do. Mm-hmm. But if you have a door that's open with no door on it, like a doorway with no door, uh-huh. make sure that your bed's not anywhere in that area.
This is fascinating to me right now.
No.
Because I'm thinking of my current bedroom setup, and there are several things you're already saying, and I'm not sleeping well at all.
And that definitely, it's like, first of all, your subconscious doesn't feel safe. And so it's like on red alert going, is somebody coming? What's happening? But also it's this constant flow of energy coming through the door that when it's hitting your body over time, it can cause health issues.
Well, so I'll give you that example of the bedroom is up, the bed is up against the wall, but it faces, so the foot of the bed goes directly to the bathroom, like sink, which goes directly to the closet. And the closet has a door, but the bathroom sink doesn't. It's like one of those, I don't know what you call it. So there is no way to fully shut the bedroom off. And so when I go to sleep every night, I'm looking right into the bathroom and looking right into the closet.
And the bathroom the bathroom energy is a little unstable anyway, because you think about that's where you go to, that's where your waste goes. Mm-hmm. And also it's all about the drains. And so it's almost like, it's like your energy is just going down the drain, especially if that sink is directly in front of you. Hang on one second.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so should you stay in that room for a while, what I really encourage you to do is hang a crystal between you and the bed. This is just a Swarovski crystal. These are like the workhorse Feng Shui cures. Mm-hmm. They're multifaceted. You can kind of sort of see the facets. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what that does is it grabs the chi, the energy, and it just refracts it, disperses it, so it's not this like steady stream on top of you.
Okay, that is such a simple explanation. I feel like I've heard or seen crystals, and it just kind of like, no, I don't know if I want to, but that makes so much sense. It doesn't have to be like voodoo-y at all, or I don't know, sometimes people's reactions.
Well, and the thing is, and I say Swarovski because you don't want glass, you don't want plastic, you really want this high lead count, but and this is a great example of do as I say, not as I do, because I have an open door right here that goes directly into the toilet. And so I just cleared this, and I'm actually hanging it today.
Nice. So, that's great. So taking, like you said, it doesn't have to happen all at once. Okay, so I know what to look for in the bedroom. We do have about, 6-7 more minutes. So if there's other tips for apartments that you don't mind sharing.
I'm trying to think if there's anything specific for apartments. If you can avoid your bed sharing a wall with like a stove or a toilet, it's okay if your bed shares the wall with the bathroom, but you just don't want your bed here and the toilet here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you want to kind of avoid those for sure.
Yep. You mentioned desks, which I do have my own like standing desk that I love. Once I'll be able to move it in and get it set up.
Yeah, good. And honestly, in apartments, one of the biggest things I see when I go into apartments, people stuff so much into the apartments, and you want it to be kind of almost less is more. You know, you want it in Feng Shui, we talk all the time about space equals opportunity. And if, you know, if you're full up, there's no room for more to come. I'm looking at my cup and thinking, if my cup were full, I couldn't put anything more in it, right? And so that's the same with everything. It's the same energetically, emotionally. If you're full up, you know, there's no room for more to come in. Yeah. So just be really cognizant of when you decorate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that reminder. And I am looking forward to that, because I actually don't have a lot of, you know, moving from Minnesota 4 years ago, got rid of like my table and couches and things that were just kind of like, these aren't, you know, that great. I'll find new ones. And then where I'm at now, my roommate already had the couch and stuff like that. So it's just been, you know, sharing. So it really is a time for me to pick and choose what works for me. So when I move in, it'll be pretty empty outside of, you know, the clothes in the bedroom. And so I'm excited to take my time and figuring out what I want to fill it with.
Love that. You've summed it up the best. It's, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So take your time. The other thing I really encourage people is there is so much science about the benefits of nature in our homes. Of course, plants are huge. They absorb toxins. They reduce stress. They represent live energy. I mean, I could go on and on. I just took a class on biophilic design. But I mean, like right now, I'm looking around my office. I see plants and plants. I've got a little fountain. I have, you know, tons of, you know, beautiful rocks and geodes and crystals. And I mean, it's just really surrounding yourself as much with nature as you can. Because that just elevates our energy and our soul.
And I would imagine a lot of people gravitate towards the big windows and the natural light, you know, but for a home or an apartment that might not have that capability, how to still bring nature in.
Definitely. Bringing in nature, making sure you have ample light in your space is huge. And if you don't have natural light coming in, you know, making sure you have plenty of lighting, period. Whether you need to amp up the bulbs or bring in more lamps, whatever it is, that's huge, because lack of lighting can contribute to depression, lack of productivity, just all sorts of things. And the other thing is, just because it's an apartment, you know, clean your windows. You know, don't rely on somebody else to do that for you. And I know when my mom moved into her apartment, the first thing I did was, you know, go in and clean every one of her windows and just.
Yeah, I remember you shared that tip last year, and I really wanted a new window from where we were renting, because the screen was broken in one of them and it didn't even have a screen in the other one, so I couldn't open it up in my office. And they were refusing, and it was just becoming, you know, and finally one day I just went out and Windex all of them, and I'm just like, why did I wait so long to do that?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, and that doesn't have to be like eat the whole elephant at a time. Even if you're just doing a window here and a window there, just to make a difference. Whenever, just start. Just start.
Yeah, I love it. I love, you know, so much about coaching is self-awareness, because then once you have the awareness, you can make a choice on what's healthy for you. And I think people innately understand, like, this is healthy, this isn't. But sometimes when we're so bogged down, we're just not kind of like operating at that frequency and that, you know, high vibe that we want. But bringing this awareness to our home and how it is really an invitation for other healthy choices. You know, even I would imagine the kitchen is where you spend some space with people, and maybe somebody's, you know, really feeling the shame of their health journey, or, you know, start again, stop again diets, or whatever it might be. And it's like, well, what can we do to really make this environment work for you and support you to feel your healthiest and make those healthy choices?
Definitely. And I think the kitchen is a great one. You know, the kitchen is the heart of the home. It's where we nourish ourselves, our families. It's where, I mean, regardless of whether you want them to or not, when you have company over, that's where everybody congregates. Yep. And so it's important that, you know, if I had to tell people, you know, where do you start? It's the front door, the bedroom, the kitchen, and your office. Those are the 4 places that if you can just get those set up, it's a great place to start.
So I'm assuming you work with like families and couples though too. And how does that, you know, I don't know if you've got examples or just things where people have different ideas of what's healthy for them. How does that work?
You know, it's funny because the majority of my clients are women, and about half of them are like, do I have to tell my husband?
or can we just come in and do this? Yeah.
And I'm like, I totally get it. You know, when I first discovered Feng Shui and I was talking to my sister-in-law about her consultant, my husband just looked at me and goes, I forbid you to have that wackadoodle come to our house. And I looked at him and I went, okay. And then he went out of town and I had her come over, and it was life-changing. And now 20 years later, if I say Feng Shui, he's like, how high? What do you need to do? Let's do it, you know? And that's what I find with clients. You know, first of all, the ones whose husbands aren't supportive, eventually they come around. You know, let's just do the work. You know, if the very least you have a house that you love, that was worth the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the taking that ownership, like that personal responsibility, you know, is generally really confidence boosting, you know, and generally really attractive, you know, to say, hey, I'm going to take responsibility for my space.
It definitely is. But I will tell you, my favorite consults are when the husband and wife are together, because inevitably, and typically it's either telling the husband or the wife, this is your husband's office. You need to get out. You need to let him have this space because, you know, or husband, you need to have, your wife needs to have a space that's just hers. And usually when it's coming from a third party, I can't think of any exceptions where people have been super receptive to it. And it's just made such a difference because that spouse or that partner, they feel like they can breathe and they've got their space and they've been given permission to make it the way they want it. And the other one will back off and let them have that space.
So respectful to each other, but that self-respect to carve out that space too.
Exactly. And not inflict. I mean, you know, it's okay if someone asks for your input and says, you know, I'm thinking about this or this, what do you think? But not to or steamroll them with your opinions. It needs to be all about them. And if they want their space to be a hot mess, you got to respect that. That's their journey.
So, asking hypothetically, if someone wanted to work with you, I'm thinking at what point does it make the most sense, particularly because I'm like, okay, you know, I could do my own reading and then I could get my apartment and I could bring her in, you know, after I've been there a month or two. And then I'm like, well, maybe I could bring her in earlier. So just kind of, when does it make the most sense and how does someone get in touch and what does it look like to work with you? That was like 5 questions. Sorry.
That was good. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So as far as like when somebody's getting ready to move in, my favorite is really when they've moved in and they've got everything out that they want to be out. And then we can kind of together figure out, you know, where is the best place to put pictures. Gotcha. Or unless, I mean, if they know already, great, no problem. But if they need a little help with that, I can help with that.
So really work with what you've got, not the like planning to get it out.
Okay. Right. But with that said, I mean, I frequently will go into people's houses and we talk about the best place to place beds and do they need crystals and do they, you know, and so sometimes we can, it's just dependent on each individual is different. So I really encourage people, let's just have a conversation and we can decide what works best.
Yeah.
And then as far as consultations, you know, I have a couple of different services. I do whole house consultations, which those are my favorites because we cover a lot of ground. I have people send me their floor plan, whether it's an apartment or a home, and I will look at it and often, and the other thing we'll do as well with conversation, it's like, tell me what's not working in your life. Yeah. And we will come up together with our Feng Shui to-do list. And then once I have the floor plan, often I can look at the floor plan and go, oh, this is why partnerships struggle, or this is why they don't have money's challenging. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I get to their home, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I've got all sorts of things we want to look at and we want to talk about. And then when I come in, we spend 2 hours just going through the space based on what we talked about. So that's a basic Feng Shui consultation. But I also do what I call quick hits. If someone just wants to do a really laser focused topic that we can study that, or if we want to do home office. And everything is on my website. If you go to robynstevensfengshui.com, you know, all my services are listed and they tell you exactly what we can do. And my favorite part about this is don't kid yourself. It's so productive. It can be life-changing, but we have so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
It's
I bet.
full of laughs and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you might run into those occasional things that are like hard to look at or hard to confront, but just yeah, coming back to the energy, the energizing way to take that ownership and make a change and have it be something you really love. Nobody else is going to do that for us, for our homes.
No. And even if you hire somebody to do that for you, which I have help. I have someone help me with decorating. It's like, I know I'll go, I really want this to be purple, but I don't know how to incorporate it. So,
sure.
It's really playing on, having people help you in a way that is all about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And incorporating your energy and your style and everything.
Yeah. Moving your agenda forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on that note, so I'll definitely plug the website and make sure people know where to find you and how to get in touch. Any favorite resources you can think of, even a book if people wanted to start there, or your own blogs that, could point people in a direction?
Yeah. So I think my favorite book is one called Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life.
Okay.
And it's probably my favorite for beginners because it's really easy to follow. It's wonderfully organized. It's a really good kind of jumping off point, and it gives you a really nice way to see different aspects of Feng Shui in a very fundamental way. So it's it's older, and so some of the references are way outdated. I mean, you may be too young to even get some of them, but it's still pretty good.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was you had two questions.
Yeah, just any other quick resources or starting places for people.
And then starting places, always your master bedroom. Sometimes it's the last place people start because it's not seen by everybody, but that's why it's the most important. If that room is not supporting you, nothing else in your life is going to work as good as it can. So even if it's just cleaning out your nightstand, that's a good place to start.
That, and clean your desks. Remove the clutter from the desk.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Robyn, for joining us. This was such a treat, and I just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing, and I will for sure be following up with questions and have an August 1st move-in probably. So
crossing my fingers, have fun. And the other thing I'll tell you about your apartment is make sure you clear the old energy out.
Okay.
Yeah, whether you get a sage stick and you walk around, or whatever it is, there's so many different ways that you can clear the energy, but you want to make that space all about you and not the people that were there before.
Many people can relate to feeling stuck when you're navigating a huge life change. It can be so discouraging when you're unsure about what next step to take. I'm Samantha Lane, a certified life coach, and I partner one-on-one with men and women to create clearer thinking and more purposeful action. I happen to specialize in those who are anticipating retirement, as that's a transition that's going to impact all areas of your life. If that's you, or if you know someone who's navigating a big life change, I hope you'll sign up for a free strategy session at lumina-coaching.com. Thanks for watching Quarantine Conversations. I hope you enjoyed.